Leo Carlsson, a shot, score! From the high slot. And the Ducks take a lead on a goal by the young defenseman Ian Moore. With 3:35 to go, it's 4-3.
I would listen to Steve Carroll do the call of someone cutting their front lawn. That's how much I love Steve Carroll. He's the best. How about the Ducks last night? Another win. So Ducks are on a roll. And guess what? Right back at you tonight out in front of all the Catella crazies, Ducks in Ottawa. And just when we were looking for someone to talk Anaheim Ducks hockey with, have no fear. Zach Cavanagh from the Sporting Tribune is here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Roger. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for jumping on. All right, Zach, last time we talked, the Ducks were 9-3-1 coming off that crazy 7-5 win in Dallas. Since then, they've gone 4-3. They dropped 3 in a row to Colorado, Detroit, and Minnesota. But the 3-2 overtime win against Utah when Troy Terry scored with 4 seconds left, and they won that game in overtime. And then 4-3 last night out here on Catella. Do you think the Troy Terry goal on Monday night kind of re-energized this hockey club that you follow so well for the Sporting Tribune?
Absolutely. It's a thing where the team did not feel like they were playing badly necessarily in the games that they were losing. They were tight games, but they just weren't getting the same sort of run and gun chances that they had when they were winning 7 in a row and leading the league in goals per game and all that. So it's a thing where you're bottled up, you're pushing, you're trying to get something over the line, and Troy Terry's the guy that gets it over, and that kind of pops things off. And even the game in Boston, they got up to a 2-goal lead, and they gave that up, but they were still not playing as smoothly as they had. And it's Ryan Strome said it to us in the locker room last night that Quenneville has told this team that finding a way to win is a skill, and that is a skill that the Ducks are developing. Things were coming pretty easy at the start of the season with how well everything was flowing, and now the teams are adjusting. They're having to find new ways to win, and they've gritted out these last couple, and that is an important step for the team to be taking in their growth towards being a contender, is finding those ways to win when you're not playing your A game, and they've done that this week so far.
So basically, because of their successful start, you're telling me the Anaheim Ducks are no longer going to be sneaking up on teams, right?
No, not at all. And I think you saw that directly in that Colorado game last week, where Colorado is still the big heavyweight in the Western Conference, and they showed the Ducks what it's like to be the number one team, and they knew that they had to show up in that game. And that followed into the Detroit game a couple days later, where Detroit knew they'd already played the Ducks. They knew what they were about. And so now you're getting teams scheming a little better, kind of blocking up the top guys. Leo Carlsson hadn't scored a point in 4 games until he assisted on the game winner last night. I wrote a story this week about Mason McTavish's struggles that he's dealt with. He got 2 points again last night. But Mason said specifically that teams are getting a better read on them now. And they know that not only is this team younger, faster, stronger, they are a team that they can't take lightly. And you're not seeing the backup goaltender on as many nights as they did at the early parts of the season. And now the Ducks are playing the top effort from every team they're going to get, going now through the next 62 games.
And by the way, you just mentioned the backup goalie. I was going to ask you, I was going to get to that. So we're 20 games in, 13, 6, and 1. All but 4 of those 20 have featured Lukáš Dostál between the pipes. Do we actually get a Peter Mrazek sighting in the crease tonight?
Most likely, yeah. It's, for as well as Dostál has carried the load here and he likes playing a lot, you need to rest your number one guy. You cannot, destroy his longevity. And you saw that over the years before with John Gibson, where he was relied on every single night, and that would ultimately wear him down by the end of the year. And so they're trying to take a better tack here with Dostál. And Mrazek is a great crease partner for Dostál. Both Czech. They've known each other since playing on the national team in Czechia. And Mrazek, after a couple rough outings in his first two games. Make no mistake. The Ducks won both games, but not because of what he was doing. He has really been locked in the last couple games and made some really crucial saves to make this a formidable goal crease again for the Anaheim Ducks.
Is it important on a National League Hockey League squad in the year 2025? Dostál is clearly the number one guy. Peter Mrazek, not only here, but in a few other stops in his National Hockey League career in Detroit, Carolina, Toronto, Chicago, Detroit, he's been a backup. Is it clear to establish that's the number one, you're the backup, there's no real goalie competition here? Is that important to have?
Absolutely. And for Dostál, I think it kind of came into focus last season where he was clearly on the rise, and John Gibson and he were basically going to split the crease going into the season. And once Gibson had a appendectomy at the beginning of the year, Dostál then had to take the reins. But then when Gibson came back, despite how well Dostál had been playing, you're now having to split these guys up, and you lose that flow, that rhythm that you get as a number one goalie. And like I said, Dostál likes the pressure. He likes having all the games on his back. He likes the heavy workload. So I think to reorient that, to get him signed on that 5-year deal, to get Gibson to a place where he's going to thrive better in Detroit and say, you are our guy. There's no mistakes about it. We're not going to worry about, are you going to play every other night or whatever. You can focus on being our number one guy, and we will give you the days off when you need them. But for him, Dostál is such a cool, calm character. Even Quenneville told us last night that he is not an atypical goalie in terms of the personality that goalies have. And I think he likes that steady workload to be able to keep his flow and not disrupt his day-to-day rhythm.
Talking Anaheim Ducks hockey with Zach Cavanagh, who covers them for the Sporting Tribune. Ducks right back at it tonight after the win against Boston. They'll try to get another one tonight on Catella against Ottawa. All right, let's make this official, Zach. Is it officially time for the rest of the National Hockey League to take the Anaheim Ducks seriously?
Absolutely. I mean, we're 20 games in. We're at the quarter mark of the season. We're coming up on Thanksgiving, which has kind of become a joke as like an unofficial marker of who is and is not a playoff contender. You have to be within, I think it's 4 points of a playoff spot to be considered, really able to make that gap up and get into a playoff spot. But the Ducks, there was that opportunity with that 3-game losing streak for things to maybe come back down to earth and say, okay, this is still a young team that needs to figure out what it's doing. And like I said, I think the ability that they've had to grind out these last couple wins and stop that bleeding. And, they had slipped out of first place, but they went back up into it. First place in the Pacific, second place in the West. They're here. And they are learning day in and day out what it takes to be a contender, that it takes to be a legitimate team in this league. But they're doing so by finding ways to win the game. And that is the most important thing, that they're not taking these moral victories out of some of these losses. They are working towards that. And I think we talked about it a little bit the last time I was on, but Joel Quenneville is kind of the North Star for this. He does not get too high. He does not get too low when we talk to him after these games. And there is always something to work on. And that is such a hallmark of a great team, and us to be like, hey, we're happy to be here. They're trying to get better every night, and they're pretty darn good right now.
Does Quenneville have kind of a challenge, especially like you mentioned, so many youngsters on this squad? Leo's 20 years old, can't even order a beer at a bar until the day after Christmas when he turns 21. McTavish is 22. Cutter Gauthier is 21. Olin Zellweger, who had the overtime game winner against Utah, is only 22. I don't think Beckett Seneca has even started shaving yet. He's all of 19. Does Quenneville have a big challenge on his hands, keeping these kids not only hungry, but humble?
I don't know that that's actually too much of a challenge, because I think the thing with some of the guys you mentioned, this is now Leo Carlson's third year in the league. And he specifically told me when I asked him for a story earlier this month of, what is kind of driving your hot start here? He said he's just hungry to win. So the hunger is there. The humility is there, because this team has suffered through it the last couple of years with all these young guys. And, The only one that maybe you would think, well, he doesn't know any better at this point is Becca Seneca, but the team is insulated by these leadership veterans, your Radko Gudases, your Jacob Trubas, your Chris Kreider coming in and being a huge influence. Ryan Strome is on that level too, of guys that have been around this league and know how it happens, how the sausage gets made in terms of making a good team. And they keep these kids humble, for sure. You hear it in the locker room. They're the first ones to keep them in line. So I don't know that there's not a lot of ego going on in that room, but there is certainly a hunger to improve. Even Cutter Gauthier, who's, aside from the first 40 games of his rookie year, has been a quite successful player almost immediately. He is somebody that you talk to him and you can feel the fire in his voice of wanting to be a better player day in and day out. And these guys do have a very unique drive that you don't find in some of these young teams that could be a little loose, a little wild. They are very focused and driven to accomplishing these goals.
Hey, Zach, a couple of years ago when the Ducks had George Peros, who was known as one of the great fighters in the National Hockey League, and I always thought that kind of hurt him a little bit because I thought that George was a hell of a hockey player. He happened to be the best fighter in the league and an intimidator. Radko Gudas got his first goal of the year last night. Was it important for him to light the lamp so we can remember, oh yeah, not only is Radko Gudas, for the lack of a better term, a badass on the ice and that, dirty work guy that you need on the ice, but he's also a pretty darn good hockey player as well. Was that important for him to find the net last night?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned George Peros. I remember going to one of those internal skills competitions the team had years ago, and George Peros went 4 for 4 in the shooting accuracy contest. So he could certainly play. And for Radko, he as the captain of this team, it is important to see him succeed because he's not just a captain in name and just gets the C sewn on a sweater. He is a focal point for this group in terms of rallying them to success. And for him to not only come back in the lineup this week, but then go right back into his physical style and get rewarded with a huge goal, that does a lot for this group of getting contributions from the blue line, which they haven't really gotten in this recent stretch, but two, just to light these guys up of that's our captain. That is our leader in this room that is sparking this offense. And for sure, even when he lays the big hits, those are just as big as scoring a goal for him. And in terms of rallying that room. And there's always the question of, in the modern game, do players like him or Ross Johnston really have a spot in this faster, skilled NHL? And you could say that from in a vacuum that you want guys that can score all over the place. But to have somebody that can be gritty like that and throw the fist when they have to, that is something that all these guys appreciate more than I think anyone could possibly understand if you're not in there every day. For as much as it's entertainment, this is it's a brotherhood sort of thing. And for your captain, your burly leader that Radko Gudas is, to also start putting the puck in the net, that does a lot for the morale of that group.
Zach, we always see the top 3 stars after each and every game. If you had to name the top 3 stars of these first 20 games for the Anaheim Ducks, who are you going with?
I have to, let's see, third star, I got to go with Cutter Gauthier. I mean, to take the offensive leap that he has is incredible for his goal-scoring prowess. Number 2, I'm going to put Leo Carlson only at 2, despite how good he has been for this group. And again, taking that leap. Number 1, despite all the offensive prowess, it has to be Lukáš Dostál. He is the rock that this team builds out of every single night. He keeps them even keel. And even in a game, you look at a game like last night, the Ducks scored 4 goals. And yes, they let up 3 goals, but he made 36 saves and he made the biggest saves of the season so far. He stopped a 2-on-0 in the first period. He lunged across to stop a potential hat-trick goal that would have put Boston in the lead with 8 minutes to go. And he spurns the team forward. So for all the offensive wonder that the team has produced so far, it is still Lukáš Dostál as the number 1 star of this team.
All right, I know you got a game to get to. Give me 30 seconds on this. Do you see the Anaheim Ducks keeping it going in this direction?
Yes. I think the thing that stood out particularly is the home play of the team. The 3-game losing streak was all on the road, and they're still 7-1-0 at home. And they've played a lot of road games, the most in the NHL through the first 20 games. And now they get a stretch where they have 6 in a row at home, 9 of 11 games at home into mid-December. And that is an opportune time for this team to ride this momentum, ride the energy that has continued to build in the Ducks building. You obviously saw on opening night, and it dips there, but I've felt the fans grow in fervor and size of crowd game after game. And I think people are recognizing that this team is good, this team wins at home, and it's a great synergy that's been building here. And I think they're going to have a pretty good start here into the December month.
Kind of like the synergy developing between Zach Cavanagh and the Sporting Tribune and the Sports Lodge. Love having you in again, man. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, Roger. Have a great day.